Who was the Zodiac Killer? The Zodiac Killer was an unidentified American serial killer who is believed to have murdered at least 5 people in Northern California between 1968 and 1969. The self-proclaimed Zodiac Killer sent local newspapers a 3-part coded message explaining his motive for the killings in 1969, and in a separate letter to the editor suggested his identity was buried within an elaborate cipher message. The decoded message did indeed reveal the killer's twisted motive, but his identity remains a mystery. The self-proclaimed Zodiac Killer is directly linked to at least 5 murders in Northern California in 1968 and 1969, with 2 other victims surviving despite serious injuries. He taunted police and made threats through letters sent to area newspapers from 1969 to 1974, before abruptly ceasing communication. Through that correspondence, he claimed to have killed as many as 37 people. Despite intensive investigations and multiple theories pertaining to the serial killer's identity, no one has ever been caught for the crimes, and the case remains open. The mystery surrounding the murders has been the subject of numerous books and movies, including director David Fincher's acclaimed 2007 movie Zodiac. 1. Arthur Lee Allen. 2. Rose Sullivan. 3. Earl Van Best. 4. Gary Post. A Netflix documentary series debuting October 23rd examines new evidence that could provide clues about the identity of the notorious Zodiac Killer. Consisting of 3 episodes, This is the Zodiac Speaking sheds new light on Arthur Lee Allen, the only Zodiac suspect police have publicly identified. Allen died in August 1992 and was never conclusively linked to any of the Zodiac murders. However, author and investigative reporter Robert Graysmith featured Allen prominently in 2 books about the case: 1986's Zodiac and his 2002 follow-up, Zodiac Unmasked. According to Netflix's To Doom, This is the Zodiac Speaking includes never-before-seen evidence and interviews with people who knew Allen, a former elementary school teacher and convicted sex offender. The Zodiac Killer's symbols, signs, and cipher. On August 1, 1969, the San Francisco Examiner, San Francisco Chronicle, and Vallejo Times-Herald each received an identical handwritten letter in an envelope without a return address. Beginning, "Dear Editor, I am the killer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman." The letters contained details from the Zodiac Killer's murders that only the perpetrator could have known. The killer went on to threaten further attacks if the letters weren't printed on the front page of the papers. Each letter closed with a symbol consisting of a circle with a cross through it, in what would come to be known as the Zodiac Killer's symbol. The letters were also each accompanied by 1 part of a 3-part cipher that he claimed contained his identity. While Bay Area police departments, with the support of the FBI, worked feverishly to track down the killer, another letter soon arrived at the San Francisco Examiner, beginning, "Dear Editor, this is the Zodiac Speaking." It also described the murders in detail and taunted police for not having been able to crack his code or catch him. Several days later, high school teacher Donald Hardin and his wife Betty were able to solve the cipher. "I like killing people because it is so much fun," it read. "It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all." 3 days after the 4th known Zodiac killing, the 1969 murder of taxi driver Paul Stine, the San Francisco Chronicle received a letter claiming the crime. Written in the same erratic print as the Zodiac's previous letters, it gave the details of Stine's murder and was accompanied by a bloody scrap of Stine's shirt. At the end of the letter, the killer mused that he would next shoot out the tire of a school bus and pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out. The Zodiac Killer continued his taunting correspondence with Bay Area papers, in which he included more ciphers, claimed to have committed several more murders, and mocked the police for their inability to catch him. In 1974, the letters stopped, though the investigation continues to this day. The cipher. His crimes. 4 separate attacks involving 7 people have been definitively attributed to the Zodiac Killer. The first confirmed incident took place on the night of December 20th, 1968, when 17-year-old David Faraday and his 16-year-old girlfriend, Betty Lou Jensen, were shot to death near their car at a remote spot on Lake Herman Road, on the outskirts of Vallejo, California. Police were baffled, unable to determine the motive for the crime or a suspect. Early in the morning of July 5th, 1969, Darlene Ferrin, age 22, and her boyfriend, Mike Mageau, age 19, were sitting in a parked car in a similarly remote Vallejo location when they were approached by a man with a flashlight. The figure fired multiple shots at them, killing Ferrin and seriously wounding Mageau. Within an hour of the incident, a man called the Vallejo Police Department, giving them the location of the crime scene and claiming responsibility for both that attack and the 1968 murders of Faraday and Jensen. Despite evidence that included fingerprints, Mageau's description, the decoded cipher, and a wave of tips and leads, police were unable to track down the Zodiac killer. On the evening of September 27, 1969, he struck again, approaching young couple Cecilia Shepard and Brian Hartnell as they relaxed on an isolated part of the shore of Lake Berryessa in Napa County. Wearing a hood and a shirt bearing a circle cross symbol, he tied them up before brutally stabbing them, scrawling a message for police on their car door, and leaving the scene. He then called the Napa Police Department to claim responsibility. Shepard and Hartnell were both in critical condition, but alive when emergency services arrived. However, Shepard died of her wounds shortly thereafter. 2 weeks later, on October 11, 1969, the Zodiac claimed another life, shooting 29-year-old taxi driver Paul Stein in San Francisco's Presidio Heights neighborhood. As the murder didn't seem to fit the Zodiac's pattern, it was initially deemed a robbery until the San Francisco Chronicle received a letter claiming the crime. Mystery and theories. With descriptions from witnesses who had seen a man leaving the scene of Paul Stein's 1969 murder, police were able to create and circulate a composite sketch of the killer. But despite mounting evidence and the investigation of numerous suspects, the Zodiac remained at large. More than 5 decades after the Faraday-Jensen murders, no suspect has ever been arrested. The inability to identify the Zodiac killer has continued to frustrate law enforcement. The mystery surrounding the Zodiac case also continues to fascinate the public and has inspired more than its fair share of theories regarding the killer's identity. Ranging from plausible to absurd, these include the claims that he was Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, or convicted murderer Charles Manson, or that he eventually moved to Scotland and committed more murders there before finding happiness and giving up his wicked ways.